listening to Hungry for More, an Epicurean's Dilemma, and I'm your host, Trish Close. Renee Guilbault on the podcast today. She is a chef, author of A Taste of Opportunity, CEO of the Open Food Company, and she's on a little cooking show called In the Kitchen with Harry Hamlin. Yes, that Harry Hamlin, who also happens to be her uncle, Uncle Harry. You can stream these episodes on AMC+. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with someone that really shook you. You're hanging on to every single word this person in front of you is saying. And it's a conversation so big, it leaves you inspired to take some sort of action. That is the conversation I had with Renee Guilbault today. And I hope it leaves that same impression on you. Renee takes us on this beautiful journey of being a high school dropout, landing this amazing career opportunity, then the decision to go to culinary school in France, and then this desire to be a chef at a fine dining restaurant, which she ended up doing and hating it. Couldn't get out fast enough, she says. And then the opportunities that came after that she says were the perfect opportunities at the perfect time, including this chance to be in the kitchen with Uncle Harry on a cooking show. She says as a chef, she feels great responsibility to really teach people about food, not only where it comes from, but the importance of it. And that it's not just to feed our guts, but it also feeds our minds, our soul, our hearts, all of those things. She says there's a great responsibility for her as a chef to put that out there in the world. And this cooking show is just one way to do that. But I really left feeling inspired by Renee. She is on a mission. And Renee, I'm right there with you. Here's Renee Guilbault. And I did get a check on your last name, Guilbault.
Yes, very nice.
What is that?
French Canadian.
French Canadian, nice. I did a little bit of research on you. I don't like to do too much because I like to discover with my audience you. But yeah, you were on an interview and he did not pronounce your last name right.
That happens a lot. I mean, it's not a typical name, and I kind of just take it anyway. I get it. It's not a biggie to me.
Well, what I will say, I'm a journalist. Our number one job is to get names right. Like, come on, it's not that hard. Here's a tip for everybody listening. Ask the person you're interviewing, how do you pronounce your name? And then repeat it a few times. It's not that hard. Renee Guilbault, thank you for being on the podcast today. You're joining us from, are you in Boston?
North of Boston, yes.
Okay. I have to ask really quickly before we get any further, what's behind you? What is that?
Oh, yes. This is my big magnetic Scrabble board.
Oh,
Life
fun.
size.
Like,
Yeah.
And you play on it? You can play on it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to take it out. I've said this before, especially in meetings. I had to take it out of our dining room because I had too many arguments with my husband, who's one of those like super creatures in nature who speaks 5 languages because he's Dutch, and then he cheats, and then it's like a thing, and he can't keep his languages straight. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll be speaking and playing in English from here forward.
Cheater, pumpkin
Now it's
eater.
in my office. Yeah.
If that was behind me, it would just have like naughty words on it probably, because I am a 12-year-old boy. I cannot help it.
Oh, so we're very in sync on that. But my kindergartner takes care of that for me.
Good.
Sometimes,
All
and I
right.
don't even notice it. So someone else will call it out, and yeah, that's also a thing.
Renee, let me introduce you to the listeners properly. Chef, author, A Taste of Opportunity. You're co-host on a show on AMC, In the Kitchen with Harry Hamlin. We'll get to that in a second. Also, the CEO, Open Food Company. Welcome to Hungry for More.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
The first thing I noticed in doing a little bit of research on you, first of all, how stunningly beautiful you are. Literally, you have these like annoyingly high cheekbones that, just jelly, obviously.
Super kind. My mother will be happy to hear that.
But also just looking kind of into your resume, it's a long one, a rich resume. You've had your fingers in so many different things, mostly in the food world though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Always in the food world, just different parts of it since I was 17 years old.
Okay, love this.
I think, yeah, that's one of the exciting things about the industry. There's kind of no end to what you can achieve, and there's also no end to where you can go. In terms of sectors. So you've got manufacturing, you've got, super big food, you've got fresh food, you've got fast food, you've got everything in between, food service. And the great thing is that everybody has to eat many, many times a day, and food is pretty much everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? From banks to hospitals, schools, you name it, it's around. And so it keeps those of us who stay in the industry very busy and with lots of opportunity.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Pasadena, California, and I was born in California, and I stayed there mostly until I dropped out of high school. I didn't go to my senior year of high school. I just started working. So since then, I've moved many, many times for work, but that was where I got my start.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. What was it like growing up in Pasadena? What I know of Pasadena, it's just this idyllic, beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful place to grow up. It's a beautiful city. And back then, the weather was pretty consistent, about 363 days a year. So it was kind of called it the Prozac weather
Mm.
in our teen years because it was very steady, Freddy, and really enjoyable. And I think it really impacted me in ways that I didn't imagine as I moved to different seasons and different, cities and countries that had lots of cold weather, gray weather, rainy weather. I took it for granted and I miss it a lot. And of course, it's changed a lot. So it's not really how it used to be when I was growing up 40 years ago either.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a beautiful, lovely place to have a childhood.
Fantastic. Was food important growing up in Pasadena?
Food was important, I think, in different ways, right? That's when the whole convenience kind of CPG jarred sauce thing was coming online. And I think, it was giving hacks to home cooks and moms who were looking for a little bit of a break. And I know my mom, she cooked for us every day, but it was more like assembly of cooking and like minimal cooking. And I think there was a lot of really great things that came with that chapter. But, in terms of really developing my sense of food and food culture and what I really wanted and believed in, it took me moving to France and going to culinary school there and living there to really understand food as a rich way of living your day to its fullest and, with, kind of maximum enjoyment.
Mm.
And so I didn't really understand that until I moved out of the country.
Is it safe to say you felt like you were in a food box in living in California? Were you in this like box where you didn't have, does that make sense? Like you were just
Yeah,
sort
I
of,
know what you're saying. I think it was just the rhythm and the habit of the family and the community that I was in. I would say that we had access to some of the most incredible ethnic food ever. I mean, Mexican food is and was back then still my absolute favorite. Like if I had to eat one cuisine for the rest of my life, every day, all day long, it would be Mexican food, without a doubt. Like nothing compares. The flavors, the freshness, the beauty of it, like it just I can't even say enough about the culture and the
mm-hmm.
cuisine. That being said, that was a treat for us because most of it was like, ragu or broiled steak with oregano and, rice-a-roni noodles out of a
Mm-hmm.
box and, that kind of stuff in our home life. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this. She wouldn't disagree. Stofers, pick your own lasagna
Yeah,
night. We all had like TV dinner in our little terry cloth robes on Sundays and we'd pick our frozen dinner and it was such a
God,
treat back then.
love it.
Yeah.
I love that. I think my family, I'm from South Carolina, so almost every meal was home cooked. Which looking back, I feel very lucky, very grateful. But I craved French bread pizza from Stouffer's because I was like, Mom, smothered chicken again? Blech. No, I can't do it. So I I really enjoyed the TV dinners because it was a break from, my mom's homemade cooking, which I will say she's a fabulous cook growing up, and I learned so much from her. But yeah, she would make those dinners some nights that was just for her. Even if my brother and I didn't really like it, and she's like, "Well, then eat something else, figure it out." But I want smothered chicken tonight because it is comforting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because food is so many different things, right? It's security, it's safety, it's love, it's connection, it's culture, it's family, and it's memories. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing else in the world where you can close your eyes and smell something or taste something and transport yourself into a moment like food. Yeah.
Bingo. I was just going to say this, and what a beautiful segue. We made turkey sandwiches the other day, which I happen to absolutely love. A very clean, classic turkey sandwich. My husband put yellow mustard on his. And as soon as I smelled it on the bread, I was transported back to what, 11 years old, making my lunch for the next day.
Yeah. That's great.
Yellow
That's very
mustard,
cool.
right? That
Yeah,
vinegary yellow
very
mustard.
distinctive. It
Yeah.
does a job. It
Yeah.
has a job. It has a place.
All right, Missy, let's talk about you not finishing high school. You drop out. You do not go to your senior year. You started working. How did this even begin? Were you just like, I'm done. I know what I want to do, so I'm going to start doing it?
It was a mixture of things. I was ready to be out in the world. I had a challenging kind of personal home environment. And so I started working over that summer, and I had worked over kind of many summers in my childhood and up into my high school years. And then I just kind of didn't come back. I just kept working. And, it was interesting because back then I didn't realize that you could have a career in food. And I knew about chefs and I knew about restaurateurs. And that was kind of the end
Mhm.
of the understanding of what that could look like as a life, as a career path. And it took some time to start to figure out the enormity of food. And so what I did was I started working in restaurants, and then I took side gigs, side jobs. I was personal assistants, to X, and doing like little jobs here and there, just making it work. And one of my clients, I started a little side gig where I was setting up computer systems for home offices, and one of my clients was basically an ingredient brokerage firm. And he was taking agricultural commodities and selling them to the mass manufacturers of America. So egg powders, dairy powders, vegetable powders, some liquid frozen products, all raw ingredient. And I thought, what is this magical world? Like, I need to know more about what this is because you start to think about it and you think, okay, at Thanksgiving, where do all of these pies come from? Like who's actually making them? Because they just suddenly appear overnight and then there's like thousands and thousands of every single where you go. Well, there are factories that make 10,000 pies an hour and they use dried egg products. And those egg products come in 40,000 pound trucks. And so I
Right.
was, completely captivated. And I ended up working side by side with him for 5.5 years before I decided to go to culinary school. And
Wow.
I traveled all over the country. There was only one rental car company that would rent to me because I was under 25. It was Enterprise. So a little shout out to
Go
Enterprise.
Enterprise. Those are my peeps. Go Enterprise.
they they were willing to take the risk. And this mentor of mine, his name is David Weinberg. He's unfortunately since passed away, but he saw something in me that I didn't quite recognize in myself, and he put me in all sorts of situations that still to this day at my age, I'm almost 49 years old, blows my mind. I was negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts, with eggs for quarterly and annual contracts, and flying all over the world or all over the country, kind of
Mhm.
having these complicated, really high stakes negotiations. And I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I would iron my white, crisp collared shirt like 10 times and go through my talking
Mhm.
points and, not have coffee with caffeine. So I didn't get like over jittery and, all the things that I did because I didn't want to disappoint him
Mhm.
because he believed in me and because I wanted to see if I could do it or not.
Sure.
And that was a wild time of like growth and also confidence building, which I needed back then after kind of starting into the work, kind of sphere the way that I did. And I'm very grateful for that time because it made me fall in love with food in a very different way. It really showed me the business side of the industry, and it also set me on a path of a career that I never could have even guessed in my wildest dreams.
It sounds like it also made you grow up a little bit too, right? Because you're doing all
Tons.
this on your own.
Yeah, tons.
I mean, the idea, the idea of renting a car in my early 20s and traveling across the country by myself to handle deals and whatnot. I mean, I feel like I was, hungover, like barely going to class when I was 22, and here you are, making
Oh,
it
I did
happen.
all that. I was just a teenager when I did that. I got that all out of my system kind of by 19, by and
Brilliant.
large, thank God. But yeah,
Brilliant.
I did that too.
Do you look back at this mentor though? Because I've had a few of those in my life where they see something in you that no one else sees, and they see this potential, right? They see this, you can do it. It sounds overwhelming. And you're like, I don't know if I can do that. No, you can do it. Just try it. Just try,
Yeah.
see what happens. But I think it takes looking back at that relationship that you had for what you said, 5.5 years you were
hmm
looking back at that. It really seems like it has set up everything that you've done since then.
Oh, absolutely true. And not only that, but I had this conversation with my uncle a little bit, maybe at the end of last year, because it's very interesting how now building this sauce company, which will become, a company that kind of has tentacles in all sorts of different categories, is leveraging a lot of those early learnings from that particular career chapter in a way that all of my kind of later restaurant operations and menu development, recipe development also, supports. But without that knowledge and experience of those years, I would be thinking about things differently as we're
Mm,
building this business.
for sure.
So yeah, it's incredible how it all kind of comes full circle.
So you decided to go to culinary school in France?
Yeah, I did. I tried a culinary school in California and I wasn't happy there. I didn't think I was getting the kind of right education. I thought if I'm taking this leap, and I'm taking the time out, I knew I could go back to what I was doing before. I knew there was an open door there, but it was like if I'm going to learn, I want to learn from the best. And I was lucky. I had some good mentors and they, helped me find the pathway to get to France. And so I did. I moved, I went, and yeah, it was another game changer. Just living in
Mm-hmm.
Paris, living there and going through that day-to-day experience and connecting on a soul level with food and thinking about what I wanted to produce with my hands and with my heart and how could I bring that to other people to bring those kinds of experiences that would not only just help them feel joy, right? Like people talk about joy all the time today, but really feel that like connection to a moment, to a friend,
Mm-hmm.
to a family member over a delicious, beautiful, fresh plate of food that's just like artfully designed and thoughtful in every way. I was so excited. I'm still so excited to get to do that, in all the different ways.
It sounds like you were entering this culinary world kind of on a deeper level. And I don't want to take away from those who go to culinary school and they become chefs and they work in a kitchen or they find their path in the culinary world. But it really seems like you were entering this on a deeper level, just talking right now about the idea of food and sharing it with people. Even back then, entering into culinary school, you took that big leap. You wanted to learn from the best because it sounds like it meant something a little different to you. It was a little heavier for you.
Yeah, I think it was. But when you leave, a career that you're successful in and, you've been kind of like this, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your podcast or
You're allowed to
not.
say whatever the hell you want to say. You go for
All
it.
right. Well, you kind of been this like, fuck up or, however you were deemed as an other. I think that there's a part of you that always feels, or at least I did back then, like you want to show people what you're capable of and that you're worthy of, achieving your
Mm,
goals and that you're willing to do the hard work to make it happen. And I think, stepping outside of a comfort zone, which was a career that I had built really unexpectedly and was wildly successful within that chapter, to starting all over again and then moving into hourly work again was a whole, I got a lot of heat for that. I got some heat from my family. I got some heat from my friends that were like, you've lost your mind. You've lost your mind. You've already done this thing. You've already, taken all the years to build this thing. Why would you start all over again?
mm,
Like, and my perspective at the time was, and I'm grateful for this. I thought, if I don't try, then I'm always going to regret it. But I really want to be a part of these moments at the table with food, with people, because all of my favorite moments in life were around those kinds of moments. So if I can be a part of creating that for other people, that's how I want to spend my time. So it was, yeah, it was a bigger thing for me because there was a lot more at stake in some ways. And it was a
Mhm.
little bit harder too to have to go through that entire machine all over again and,
Sure.
go back to getting food, on sale because it was going off and throwing it in my freezer and, spreading my budget in the
Hmm.
most meaningful ways that I could to just make ends meet so that I could afford, my subway card with my groceries, with my
Yep.
rent, with my utility, all of it. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
knows this. We've all been there.
Nothing like being poor to push you that survival instinct for sure. I want to go back really quickly. You said you felt like a fuck up because was it because of high school or just because
It's
of
just, yeah, it's because, I grew up in this place that was kind of like the in between where my parents hadn't necessarily had professional success, but their parents were incredibly successful and wealthy. And so we had, a lot of access within our school communities and with our communities overall. Nobody was a high school dropout. It was like a whole thing. So, you went to school, you got your degree, you
right.
went to college, you got that degree, and then you could kind of start to figure it out. And that was the track. And I kind of cut through
Yeah,
this side door, and it wasn't a small thing. I think there were a lot of people who were really ashamed of me. They thought I was making the wrong decision. I kind of held that in a place where I think I also felt ashamed a little bit, but also like
sure.
I don't really want to do anything else. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And, it's just a lot to hold, especially as a young person. So I think that was all, that was
Yeah.
all wrapped around that
No, that
feeling.
absolutely makes sense. And I would just say kudos to you for it sounds like you were just listening to your gut and listening to your heart and kudos to you for taking that path because that isn't yeah, I mean, I can imagine just my family they would be like, "No, that's not happening. No, you're not. You're finishing high school."
Yeah,
Um
I got
let's
that.
let's talk about culinary school, which totally out of your comfort zone and doing this thing. You're there though. Did you feel like this is exactly where I need to be?
So it was, I mean, yes, yes, and it was a lot of different things. I think when you go and you're intensively interested in learning something, then you're laser focused on it.
Hmm.
And I took it very seriously and I wanted to learn everything I could and have every experience I could and make the most of that moment. So I wasn't really balanced with my lifestyle when I was living there beyond, walking to the bakery and walking to the cheese shop and, really enjoying, my little downtime. I spent most of my time in the kitchen between the
Hmm.
kitchens at school and my kitchen in my little apartment. So, I think it's always one of those things where you feel like I'm supposed to be here, but I also recognize that this is not something everybody gets to do. And I want to make sure I give it my all because again, if it ends up not working out, I'll also know that I did
Hmm.
everything I could, and then I'll be okay with that,
For sure. What did you want to do with this after culinary school? Did you want to be a chef in a restaurant? Did you want to be a private chef? What was the goal for you?
Executive chef, fine dining restaurant, something where I could really control the menu and the food experience and how the plates kind of arrived to every single table. And so I worked very hard for that opportunity and worked around Europe. I, did paid all my dues, took all the hard knocks, all the things you can imagine. And I was very fortunate I was able to achieve that role. And then I realized that I hated it and it was like the worst decision that I ever made. And I thought, oh my God, what do I do now? This is a real crisis.
Oh no.
And again, shout out to the mentors and the adults who, were trusted allies and advocates saying, it's okay because now you have even more information in your toolbox. You loved these pieces of your job where you were, an ingredient broker. There were also some things about that made me really concerned for the state of food, in mass manufacturing environments, because as an ingredient broker, you can imagine I had access and exposure to a lot of interesting information that
Yep.
is curiously in the headlines today. And not enough of it, by the way.
Right.
so then, kind of moving into the culinary world and then moving to the executive chef, achieving this ultimate goal and realizing I have no balance and I'm not a part of these moments. I'm a part of a piece of this moment that's happening with people. But how could I actually marry all of the skills that I have achieved so far into something that would feel more satisfying, that would give me a little more balance in my life?
Hmm.
And that's when I moved into franchising, because I didn't even have that on my bingo card. I had, when I thought of franchising, I thought of, horrific fast food. Um, I didn't recognize that there were all sorts of different ways that that could look. And I stumbled upon Le Pain Quotidien, who was hiring its first kind of
Hmm.
California kitchen manager at the time. That was what the role was called. This was 20 years ago. And there were 6 restaurants in LA, and they were looking for a culinary person to oversee all the restaurants. And that was, the beginning of my next chapter into high volume fresh food operations that took me all over the world. So
Amazing.
totally unexpected,
Hmm.
and all because I hated being an executive chef and couldn't get out of it fast enough.
Nice. Where's my next opportunity? ASAP. I'm not familiar with this franchise. And you said, tell me a little bit about.
So it was a really interesting restaurant company at the time. It was the only, and it still is, to my knowledge, the only certified organic bakery chain that had its own bakery operations and baked beautiful fresh bread, throughout the day, and kind of created this environment where there's classical music playing, beautiful reclaimed wood, long dining tables. It was kind of like stepping into a little vacation for 45 minutes while you had your breakfast, you had your lunch, little
Hmm.
bowls of coffee. It was a Belgian concept, and it reminded me a lot of my time in Paris and my time working around Europe. I'd also lived in London for a year as a chef, and so I had all of these, wonderful cultural influences of food and food moments being wrapped around a little bit of rest and a little bit of just stop, slow down, and take it in.
Mm.
That was not a part of the culture that I grew up in
Right.
America. And this beautiful concept was exactly that. It was where you could step into a world and take a little bit of a break and have a beautiful viennoiserie item, like some sort of fresh, beautiful pain au chocolat or a pain au raisin, or you could have a little piece of cake, or you could have an open-faced tartine sandwich and this beautiful bread. And I just loved everything about it, but I also loved the engine behind it, that this was like a really powerful business that had the opportunity to scale and spread these like really nutritious, fresh food options in all sorts of different cities across the world. And so that was really appealing to me because coming from the manufacturing side, you know that scale is where impact happens.
Hmm.
And so that's what the concept was like. It's still around. It's been through some hard knocks. It's under new ownership now. But at the time, I grew into a role where I ended up being the director of the master franchise of food and beverage operations. So we had 150 restaurants in 19 countries. So I had the Middle East as my region. I opened the new markets in Russia. That was super fun and interesting. Yeah, Australia, Canada, Mexico. I mean, I could go on and on. It really opened the door for me seeing the world and learning about food from so many different viewpoints
Hmm.
and having so many incredible, cherished, like cultural experiences. And again, all stemming from taking that micro pivot out of executive chef and not knowing what was next. And then, just kind of taking it all as it came, like a trail of breadcrumbs.
Amazing. But then see, I'm a little woo woo. I do think the universe gives you what you need in the moment, right? Maybe it sends you down this path or it introduces you to this person or it just I don't know. I do believe everything happens for a reason. And so I do believe you were launched into this fine dining experience so you could figure out this is not where I want to be. This is not where I need to be. So I believe that the universe really does set you up in that way.
Yeah. I think that's a really wonderful way to look at it. And I also think that it's our job as people to pay attention and also just to be brave enough to say yes to the opportunities, even if you
100%.
don't know where they're going.
Yep.
Like just say yes. And if it fails or if you don't like it, then pivot. But don't miss an opportunity just because of fear or because you're not sure where it will go. If if you're up for that.
Yeah, no,
I was
absolutely.
always up for that.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm curious where, and maybe if it was in culinary school or before then, I know for me, food's always been around, but I didn't understand the importance of maybe where it came from. I used to do in my news days, we had a cooking show, we'd have chefs on, and it was really to promote local restaurants, and they would cook something for me. And I was exposed to so many different foods, things I've never heard of, techniques that I've never seen before. And then I think it was Super Size Me, the documentary,
Mm.
that I was just like, holy shit, no, no more. I'm not, no more. And it changed so many different things, just really how I ate. But then I became obsessed with the kitchen. And I think that's where all of this was happening at the same time, this little cooking show. And then Super Size Me came out. And I just was like, man, we really need to be paying attention to where our food comes from.
Yeah.
Where did that happen for you? Where did that happen for you?
So, honestly, this has been a lifelong journey for me, but I can tell you it was a personal thing for me in my early years because my father had diabetes and he had an insatiable appetite for fast food and booze. But he didn't understand, and it was still not clear, I think, to most people how toxic
Right.
that kind of food is. And when you eat it on a regular basis, maybe multiple times a day, how destructive it is to your metabolic health. And through a series of events, my father ended up having a kidney transplant,
Mm.
and that ended up not working out. And he passed away when he was 52 years old from complications of diabetes. And
Jeez.
I was 23 years old at the time. And, I think in many different ways that I didn't even recognize, probably for even a couple of decades, that just imprinted on me this sort of mission around really being thoughtful about what I was creating and what I was responsible for. Because at the end of the day, I have a very particular view about food and food leadership, especially having achieved like large global roles, in food.
Hmm.
I do believe that we have a responsibility to our customers to create products that are going to help them thrive in every way that, we can. And it's one thing if you're having a sweet treat and your company's built around just sweet treats, if that's the lane you want to be in
Hmm.
and that's, where your happy place is, there's definitely space for that. Everybody needs a sweet treat every now and again. But I also think that we've taken it too far and, to the point of actually, compromising public health and
Yeah.
compromising families and people and how they feel every day. And so I wanted to be able to sleep at night, and I wanted to be able to make sure that the products that I was responsible and that I was putting my imprint on were going to follow that
Hmm.
ethos. And so
Hmm.
my entire career, that has been the golden thread through it all. I've worked for some of the most sustainable, forward-thinking, fresh food, companies in the world, and been responsible for their menus, their product development, their fresh food operations. And I'm really proud of that work because we are what we eat, and it does matter, and we can do better, and we should do better, and we should hold food companies and food leaders accountable for making sure that the products that they're responsible for are something that are going to help us thrive.
Mm.
So
I'm
it's a
so
long
happy you're
answer.
here. I'm so happy you're here. I want to like give you a virtual hug. I'm so happy you're here because I could not agree with you more, especially, I mean, they're the adults, sure, but the little ones. I
Oh,
mean, the little ones that are, going by. And again, go to McDonald's once in a blue moon. I don't care, whatever. But every single day you're getting chicken nuggets and fries. Come on, mom, dad, let's do better. We got to do better.
I think it's so, I totally understand why a lot of people feel that way. I really do. And I also want to really acknowledge how hard it is for people to cook at all anymore. We're 5 generations into the microwave. People don't have time to do
Mm,
anything. They don't know how to cook anymore. They don't have time between 5 and 6 o'clock at night to put a meal on the table.
right.
And I think, and everything is epically expensive, no matter which way you turn, right? There is no like cheap, obvious way
Nope.
anymore, except for actually scratch cooking at home
Hmm.
and at the expense of time,
Right.
right? So I think the construct is really toxic right now, and it's up for us to create solutions for people to be able to reconnect to food so that that respect starts to kind of really come front and center with, understanding how it impacts personal metabolic health, but also cognitive health,
Hmm.
right? And emotional well-being. All of those three pillars are really wrapped around food, and that food companies make it easier for families because we've now outsourced food all over the place,
Yep.
like breakfast, lunch, dinner outsourced. So where can somebody turn to get a convenient meal that's good for them, that's fast, that is going to satisfy their hunger and be nutritious and delicious? Well, not many places right now
Right.
exist to solve for that. And that's actually one of the reasons why we're building the Open Food Company, because home cooks do need those tools and they do need those solutions, and they shouldn't have to compromise their health for convenience and flavor first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Flavor over everything. But we're perilously in danger of losing our palates for natural food and fresh food because food is so heavily architected. We're getting natural strawberry flavor instead of strawberries, and this is something I think we need to all talk more about, especially leaders in food, about how important it is to build palettes based on actual food that comes from farms and not laboratories, because that's what our bodies were meant to eat.
Yeah.
And every time we've tried to like hack that system, not going so well,
Nope. Yeah. No.
So yeah,
Preach.
it's we got to create better solutions for people at home and help them find ways, because nobody's feeling good about their choices right now
No.
either,
No
you
one.
know?
I had Christopher Kimball from Christopher Kimball's Milk Street on the podcast maybe last year. He wrote something in one of the newsletters regarding cook his campaign for Cook America. Like, let's just we've got to get back in the kitchen. And I don't know if that means like home ec, bringing home ec back, or even having classes for young people to learn how to cook and get excited about cooking things that are fresh from a farm. But I do agree with him and you, something's got to change. I mean, my grandmother was a farmer, and so I remember counters full of tomatoes and cucumbers, and I didn't care for it then, but I just wish I wish I paid more attention when I was 8, 9, 10. But if we made that part of growing up,
Yeah.
school, if it was just something that was more daily, I mean, I agree. It's scary out there looking at the options and how just not good they are for you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I have this little guess that menu item series on my social media that we just put together, because I think it's so illuminating to see, that you look at a menu title, grilled chicken sandwich.
Hmm.
Well, that sounds easy and simple, right? Grilled chicken sandwich. What's that going to be? It's going to be some sort of like yummy bread or bun. It's going to be grilled chicken patty, and it's going to be maybe some sauce and probably like lettuce, tomato, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's like over 100 ingredients, the large majority of which are not coming from, anything that's grown in nature.
Hmm.
And but we're sold. It's like the book title. You don't really understand the contents of the book unless you look under the cover and you actually read the pages. And so I'm trying to create more awareness around the fact that there is a really complicated situation underneath those really simple menu titles. And if it can provoke some curiosity for people out there to just take a look at the ingredient list, I think they'll start making different choices, because they'll be suddenly aware,
Hmm.
right? That, wow, why is this 100 ingredients? That's
Right.
nuts. It doesn't need to be. It should be 12,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
so what's going on here? That kind of thing. But it's on all of us to really push companies for better, and also to start really, leveraging that time honored tradition, that old saying, vote with your dollar, you know, give
Absolutely.
money to the companies that are trying to create these kinds of solutions, and frequent those places. There are places, fast casual and other brands that I think are doing a really good
Hmm.
job to try to create this, solution for people who need something like right now. Like, I'm in my car, I've got hungry kids, I need something in a
For
hot
sure.
minute. There are a couple places emerging, and some that have been around for a while, that can solve for that. But yeah, it's about supporting them.
And I think too, and clarify this for me. Also, bad foods. I mean, fast foods. I don't want to just. I don't want to. I don't want to be too negative, but there are addictive properties in certain foods that aren't good for you. Fast food being one of them. I have a friend who, she was just stuck in a rut, and she said it's an addiction now. It's turned into an addiction. And I was like, okay, well, what can we do to to fix this? Let's bring in some processed foods and cook them and wean you off and get you onto this path where you're not craving fast food every single day.
Well, it's so hard. And I mean, people have to understand too. And again, this goes back to just having empathy. It's architected to be unputdownable,
Mm-hmm.
literally.
Mm-hmm.
This is so heavily designed. The crunch, the noise of the crunch that goes into something that's crunchy, you could use your imagination. That's worked on for years and years, and it's continued to be fine-tuned because, you know, food development experts, largely food scientists, are trying to kind of, hack your hormonal system
Mm-hmm.
because they want you to really get this experience very similar to social media and dopamine when you're having these little ups and downs and hits. And that's, heavily architected ultra processed food. So I think, trying to eat and appreciate food in its most natural form is a great place to start. Going to farmers markets, reconnecting with fresh produce, going to restaurants where you've got hands in the kitchen. And that's what I tell people. I say, think about fast food not as this evil thing that should be, a never situation,
Right.
but this should be the treat. This should be the once a week or once a month thing that you go out for that isn't really gonna nutritionally be good for you,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still a place for that. But if you're eating there every day, it's probably not going to work so well for you. And I think it's so hard for people who aren't sure how to get out of that that cycle. But
Absolutely.
it's great that you're talking to your friend about this, and hopefully more companies are up and coming to help solve for this, to make it just as easy for people to get fresh food that's
Mm-hmm.
actually nutritious and good for them. And I for one am really excited about what's to come in that space.
That's
So
exciting. Really quickly before we move on, we could talk about this for a long time. Do you feel like social media has inspired, helped people to get into the kitchen? I mean, there's some outrageous things on there, but there's also people doing really good jobs being, food content producers. Do you see that being a positive thing right now? Because
so
it has blown up. I mean, it is, as you know, it has blown up on social media, people cooking.
yeah, I mean, I'm probably the last person to ask this question because I spend the least amount of time possible on social media
Good for you.
because it's just it's just not my thing, and it's something that I have to kind of do for work. And also when I see a lot of misinformation out there on particular topics, especially around food policy or something like that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just weigh in a little bit here. But by and large, I think people are really excited to watch food, but they're not necessarily excited to get in the kitchen
Mm,
and try what they see. It's more entertainment. And
yeah.
this actually was kind of why we developed the cooking show to be what it is. Because the original conversations and how this unfolded was, of course, my sweet uncle is a great home cook, and he cooked for the girls on Lisa's show, and they loved his very famous bolognese, and his home network is AMC. And so then they came to him and asked him, would you do this cooking show? And he, for whatever reason, said only if my niece does it with me. And
Oh,
he tells everybody the story, and I'm like, okay, but I'm just a culinary security blanket here. So I that's my part of the story. But it was also not an easy yes for me. It took a minute to figure out how could we actually make this really impactful and something helpful for home cooks? How could we make this purposeful in really easy ways? And so we designed the show to be very easy, executable, simple, scratch cooked recipes that you can do to have a little dinner party and not get trapped in the kitchen. And so teaching him these kind of little tips and tricks that are, fairly chefy, but also just really simple and very doable and approachable. is important. And I think when you watch programming that's not doable, that's totally performative, that's competitive, like your heart's racing, you're getting stressed, like, my voice is ratcheting up right now to
Yeah.
like create the
Yeah.
whole, it's that whole thing where it's like, this is a part of food and sure it's entertaining, but this is not what food should be
No.
like. Like food should be a break. It should be a moment to connect, even if it's just with yourself, because you're just alone. And you're eating to nourish your body and to give your body what it needs, but also your heart and your mind, and to
Hmm.
take a second and to slow it down. And I am so excited for those kinds of things to be a little bit more widespread, because I think the pendulum just went too far
Agreed.
in
Yeah.
that direction. And so yeah, that's a long way to answer your question, but
No.
hopefully
I love the
good.
long ways to answer a question. Yeah, there's nothing that sounds more appealing to me than racing through a grocery store and finding groceries and then cooking them in a 30-minute time slot. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot me. No, thank you. This show, In the Kitchen with Harry Hamlin, Harry is your uncle. Um,
Yes,
let's go. I want to go back a little bit. Growing up with Harry, I'm assuming Uncle Harry. Do you still call him Uncle Harry?
I do. And my brothers and I we're all kind of laughing about this in our 40s, because I'm like, does he still sign, his cards UH? Because that was the thing. It's always Uncle Harry.
Oh,
So we didn't realize it was weird that we still call him Uncle Harry, because he still calls himself Uncle Harry, but
hmm.
he's Uncle Harry. So there it is.
What was it? Did he live close growing up?
So he lived in the same house that he's been in for the last, about 45 years or so.
Crazy. That is
Um,
crazy.
Yeah, and we were in Pasadena, so we didn't really see him a lot. We saw him when he was like coming to the Emmy Awards or something. He'd stop by, before he'd be going on, and he when we did see him, he was always so sweet, and it was never really a part of our universe, like his whole Hollywood
Totally.
universe in that childhood years. And I remember I was obsessed with horses. So I was very interested and obsessed with the fact that he got to ride Pegasus, and I needed to know everything about Pegasus and where Pegasus was housed and what she was eating. And I was sure she was a girl. And he entertained this for forever, every time I saw him, for years and years. And I think that it just kind of goes to show what a stellar human he is, and what a seriously adorable uncle he is, that he really cared to keep that dream alive for me. And now I see him, doing similar things with my daughter, which is really sweet too.
Amazing.
Yeah,
We all need that uncle. I have mine, and he's wonderful and a great cook, and we love to be in the kitchen together cooking. Although when it's the two of us, there's too many chefs in the kitchen. It's like I'm like, I'll do that, and he's like, no, I got it. And I'm like, okay, well then I'll do that. He's like, no, I got that too. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? You're doing all the things. What is it like working with Uncle Harry on this show, doing the things that you love, cooking and educating people on the importance and the specialty of food? What is that like?
it's just, it's really sweet because it's in his house, and because it's Uncle Harry, it's a very calm, relaxed kind of a thing. And I'm not sure I would have been able to do it, because, I'm not an entertainer. I'm an old school, 3 decade long industry person. I did not have this on my bingo card. And I think it's really a testament to AMC and the 914 Pictures team. They're just incredible
Hmm.
documentary experts, and they just, they everybody's family now. And so, we're in there, and I'm barefoot for a lot of it, and we're just cooking and doing our
Perfect.
thing. It's not scripted. It's just really us. And just like you said about your uncle, I mean, that's what happens, right? Like there's pranks, there's mistakes, there's all sorts of weird things that crop up. And it's also the joy of cooking with family and with friends and having dinner parties. And I think what makes a day, worth living, right? Like to
Right.
have these sweet
Right.
experiences around food with relationship and connection. It's a really incredible thing. And I'm grateful to be a part of that project. Yeah.
Have you two, are you learning different things from each other right now? Things that you haven't maybe touched on, learned before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Uncle Harry, he's a great cook and he has his way of doing things. And so I'm trying constantly not to give him like side eye, like chef side eye of like how he's doing his thing and mine. And I think
Uh,
it's really important that people feel, and I genuinely mean this, like there's more than one way to do something. So, he has his way of doing things. I have my way of doing things. We kind of meet where we meet, and hopefully the viewers at home are getting some good, tips and tricks along the way.
I'm sure. Are you a control freak in the kitchen, Renee?
I like my structure. I like my organization. I like my space. I don't know that I'm a control freak.
Oh, I am.
I yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely like, a process, but I'm also a trained chef.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing. But my daughter makes a mess when she's making cookies or making muffins or cakes or whatever we're doing, and I'm
Yeah.
good. I love all of those things. Like kitchens are
Beautiful.
made to be messy, so let's mess
Absolutely.
them up.
I am one of those where I have people over and they're like, "Do you need help in the kitchen?" Absolutely not. You park your hiney. I will make you a cocktail. I will pour you a glass of wine. You sit. Let me. It is also my love language, right? I love cooking for people. There's nothing like hearing someone go, "Oh my gosh, this is so delicious and it was so easy." I'm like, exactly. You can do this in your kitchen. But yeah, don't help me. I don't want your help. Even cleaning
Oh my
up.
gosh, you're so funny.
Yeah. I mean, so control freak. Yeah. Even my mom is like, "Oh, you are not fun to be in the kitchen with." And I'm like, well,
Oh,
I mean, I own it though. I own it and I'm not, yeah, not ashamed of it whatsoever. I will say this when I'm with my nephews or little kids, I'm like, go for it. I don't care. That's where I just go
you
shift
can
down into
tell.
low maintenance and chill out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay,
Take it
that's
easy.
good.
Um, the show on AMC, where are you in the process? Have you just shot some episodes? Are you about to shoot more?
So we just wrapped season two,
Love it.
and I think that's all kind of percolating in there, and then we'll see what happens from here. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, amazing. I'm sure there's some planning that goes into what the two of you want to cook together. So, like, what is it going to be this episode? What is it going to be this episode?
Yes. I mean, I want to make things that Uncle Harry's really curious about making, and he usually has a list of things that he's wanted to try that he hasn't made yet. Like this past season, he wanted to learn how to make a big prime rib because it's been really intimidating to him, and I think it's
Yeah.
intimidating to a lot of people to do some kind of statement. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's like the most like autopilot, cruise control, you know, wow, you could have for a
Hmm.
dinner party. So, yeah, I was happy to show him how to do that. And also then it got, kind of turned into this Mad Men experience because his Mad Men friends came over
Oh,
for dinner. And then that
nice.
was off the rails. And
Hmm.
yeah, you should watch the episode. It was hilarious.
That sounds fantastic, actually, that his Mad Men friends came over and you got to feed all of them. I'm a little jealous of that, Renee.
Yeah, they're super kind and lovely people. And it was a very hilarious and enjoyable dinner. That's
That's
for
so
sure.
fun. I love it. And people can watch this in the kitchen with Harry Hamlin on AMC, right? Is
Correct.
there is there
AMC, the streaming, AMC Plus
plus?
is the streaming.
Yep,
And then
AMC
there's a
plus.
bunch of other channels that it's on too.
Love
Yeah.
it. So go check that out. I do want to wrap up a little bit, but I have some kind of lightning round questions for you.
Okay. All right.
When it comes to the kitchen, your pantry, I'm always curious, and I'm a wine nerd too. So I love when I go over to a friend's house and they have a big wine cellar. I'm like, I gotta go see your cellar. I gotta go look at it. Also with people who are big cooks, I need to see their pantry. Like, what's in your pantry? What are some staples in your pantry that you just cannot live without?
Oh, that's easy. Maldon salts, really good butter and lemons.
Lemons.
Yeah. I use lemons every day.
Um, Ditto, same. Someone asked me this question. For me, it's vinegars. I love having
Mm,
lots of different vinegars on hand. They're
mm.
so versatile. You can like coleslaw, marinades, salad dressings. You can make your own salad dressing with vinegar or lemon, by the way.
Yep.
Love that. Do you identify more I think I know the answer to this question. Do you identify more as a cook or a baker?
A cook,
Yeah.
for sure.
And that,
Yeah, I mean, I think people who bake, they have this gift, this ability, this feeling. And I don't have that. It wasn't a natural gift to me. I'm a learned
Hmm.
baker, but I don't have that, that natural talent. So I really appreciate those that do because it's just such a beautiful skill to have, and to be on the other receiving end side of that skill is also pretty incredible.
It is. I agree. And I also think too, I just like to kind of shoot from the hip. And so cooks tend to cook from the hip. They just kind of get in there, throw something together. That's their
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
How many, okay, this is a weird question. How many skillets do you have? I have a lot. So this is why I
I have a
ask.
lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phew.
I don't even know if I could count. I have a lot.
You need different
Like
skillets
I
for
have
different things,
more than a
right?
dozen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now I feel better. And then are you a gadget person? Are you a kitchen gadget
No,
person?
I'm
Okay.
not. I don't even, I haven't had a microwave for 20 years. I don't do gadgets.
Love it.
I mean, I use a wine opener, there's a gadget that
Hmm.
I'm good with. But yeah, I really am fairly old school, and I'm not sure if it's just because that's how I learned and because of my age, or if it's just not, having the time to like dive deeply into the new evolving world of gadgets. But I tend to use what I've always used.
I love it. A chef friend a long time ago said the only thing a microwave is good for is heating up old coffee.
I thought you were going to say melting chocolate, but yeah, I just there's no need for them. I mean, we have an oven, and people are shocked when they come over, and I'm like, well, why don't you just try going for a week without your microwave and see what would
Yeah.
happen? And just get rid of it. Like, don't leave it there staring at you if you can.
Right.
Like, just make it go away, and you'll create new habits, and then you won't need to use it.
I will say our microwave is incredibly clean because we never use it. It was one of those like, we bought the
Did it
house.
come in the kit? Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's like, yeah. And I was like, I have to have two ovens. I need two ovens in this brand new kitchen that we're building. And there was a space for a microwave. And if I thought back, I would have just put the two ovens right there and moved the microwave. Anyways, I agree with you. Microwaves are pretty useless. Um, I had a gadget question for you. Oh, knives.
mm,
Anthony Bourdain in his book said you don't really need this huge collection of knives. And when I look back at what I usually use when I'm in the kitchen, he's right. I only use
yep,
like two knives.
yep.
Do you agree with that?
Same. Yeah, I mean, unless you're a professional chef and you have to like, fillet a fish or, do something else more complicated. And of course, I have all those knives. Most professional chefs have those knives. I really rely on about three workhorse
Hmm.
knives. I mean, and that, yeah, that's all you need.
I agree. Before we get to the final three, one more question for you. When you just really want to get into the kitchen, what's sort of your go-to that you just love? You love to cook. Is it a project? Is it a quick little pasta? Like, what is your favorite thing?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, it's just different every day. It really depends on what I've got around the kitchen, what time of day it is,
Hmm.
and what's ahead of me. One of my favorite times is baking really early in the morning. So I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day, and I'm up from 3 to 6:30 before my daughter wakes up so that I can work, and then I bake for her twice a week for school. Um, and I love that time because the sun is just coming out, all is still in the world. I
Yeah.
can really think through things, listen to the news, and put something beautiful together. And it's probably my favorite time of day.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. That's amazing. I will say this. I go to the grocery store maybe like almost every day. And
No.
I'm one of
Do you
those.
walk there? Are you walking there and like getting one bag of things and then you're just bringing it home? Or are you,
I don't know about
what's,
walking, but no, yes, I'm just because my taste, my cravings change. If it's too hot, then I don't want that thing that I bought on Sunday. I don't want to cook that now. I want something different. So I've just learned for the most part. I, I try to limit it maybe a couple times a week, but sometimes it's like every single day because my tastes are changing.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, that's not a bad thing. Being connected to your groceries and
Hmm.
having that be an active part of your day, I think is a wonderful thing. And also relying on your freezer to throw all the food in there that you're
Absolutely.
not getting to so that, you've got another meal for another time, I
Love it.
think it's all great.
I feel so much better about myself. Thank you.
Oh, stop.
All right, final three. Best advice you've ever been given.
Oh, that is so hard. I've had incredible mentors, I have to say. I'm so fortunate. I've had an army of champions and truth tellers, like people who really like are not shy. I think the one that I would probably amplify the most would have been I was a part of a regional food systems project, and Stuart Brand came to talk to us about what we were doing, and kind of give us some perspective and how to think through on a much more global scale. And he said to this room of leaders, you know, never forget that, you're not better than anybody else. You just have a different role. And it was a really fascinating thing to watch the quiet in the room as people took that in for a minute, coming from somebody who's so revered and well respected and like kind of the grandfather of the internet and all of these like um, design thinking systems. And to have him say that of like, just, your part and your role and your responsibility in this is not more. It's just different.
Mm.
And we have to look at everybody's, unique contribution in that same way. And I love that because I think the framing of that, no matter what job we're in, no matter what level of work we're in, it's all deeply important. And nobody's is more important than somebody else's. It's really how we all collaborate and work together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
I love that too. No one can do what you can do, right? You're special. No one can do
Yeah.
what you can do. I was just at a Women in Wine conference. Half of the conference audience looked at the other half and said, all the other roles are taken, so just be you. It's a beautiful
That's
thing to
hilarious.
let sink
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
What's your happy place? You may have already
Oh
answered
my
it.
gosh. I did in the kitchen in the morning. Yeah. I love quiet mornings in the kitchen and baking and then but I also, yeah, I love being with my daughter, discovering food together. Um, I probably have many happy places, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
That's good. That's good. You should have lots of happy places. What are you baking in the morning this early?
It really depends. Usually some sort of a maple or honey muffin with fresh fruit, whichever's in season, and a little cornmeal or oats or whatever I have. If it's like a bunch of different grains, or
Mm.
her little bestie is allergic to eggs, so that's always fun because then I'm playing with like buttermilk and flax and other things to try to create that optimal replacement. So it's you never know,
That's the
whatever's
best.
around.
I love it. And all things food and drink, or just food or just drink, what do you crave? What always sounds good?
Oh, I always crave roast chicken.
Mm. And you said
Like this.
Mexican food early. You said Mexican. You could eat Mexican food every day.
Oh, I could, and I would happily for the rest of my life. But if I'm craving something, it's probably going to be a roast chicken.
Love that. And you and my hubby could be best friends because he could eat Mexican food really good, clean Mexican food. He could eat it every day. So
Nice.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Renee Guilbault, you have been so much fun. Thank you, first of all, for educating and sharing your knowledge to so many people. As we talked about, it is so incredibly important right now, more than ever, maybe, to let people know how very important food is. So thank you for this mission that you're on. And I'm rooting for you. And however I can help, you let me know. I'll be your little soldier out there. Love it. And I want everyone to go check out In the Kitchen with Harry Hamlin on AMC Plus. I'm going to do it myself. Very excited to see this. And if I ever meet Harry Hamlin, I'm going to call him Uncle Harry now.
There you go.
I mean,
Well, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a blast, and I so appreciate what you're doing and wish you every success.
thank you so much. And again, thanks for sharing your brain and your heart. I appreciate our time today. You've been listening to Hungry for More, an Epicurean's Dilemma with me, Trish Close. You can watch this podcast and subscribe on my YouTube channel. Just search Hungry for More, an Epicurean's Dilemma. You can also listen and subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts.